My name is Michael Kinzel. I'm an associate professor in mechanical and aerospace engineering at University of Central Florida. So basically what I do is mostly a mix of teaching and research at a large university. So we basically teach students about mostly aerospace engineering is where I mostly focus. And I also bring on undergraduate and grad students into research projects. So we could either help kind of like push the state of the art or provide essentially more real life mentoring during school. I think I just had a kind of like a strong interest in how things worked as a child. I was always a kid breaking everything and trying to put it back together. Maybe I was pulling it apart and trying to put it back together too. I think that if like that, along with basic interest in science and math and physics, I think it leads to a STEM career, but engineering specifically was kind of pointed me in that direction. So I started at a smaller university, Northern Arizona University. It was in my hometown. Going to school in your hometown can maybe be a little bit different, a little more interaction with family, maybe not all the time, more interaction with old friends and these sorts of things. But starting at school, I look back and I probably did too much work outside of engineering, but I still focused on the classroom. When I was done, I finally started getting into research on my final year at the university. That really helped bridge or it helped me link into internships. So there I went to work for a wind turbine company, and that research and my internship really helped get me into my graduate schools, which is at Penn State University. Graduate schooling for most STEM fields, including engineering, they tend to pay for your schooling. So no longer you're paying for tuition, you're getting paid, and then you do these research projects. There I started focusing on helicopters and novel helicopter design concepts for my master's degree. Then I moved on to supercavitating torpedoes for my PhD. So these are like novel, very fast torpedoes that go underwater. And about 2/3 through my PhD or halfway through my PhD, I started working full time at the laboratory as well as continuing my PhD. So I think that all the things that really helped me in my career now, I really feel strongly about kind of like the thesis options. If you look now, a lot of universities are dropping thesis options. And I feel like that's developing a thesis really helps you kind of formulate novel ideas and discuss it, present it. And that whole presentation aspect of it really helps you pull your ideas together so that they're cohesive. And that specific attribute is very important to a STEM career. How do you pull in together all kinds of complex information and present it to somebody in a way that helps us push the state of the art? So my specialty is something called computational fluid dynamics. Basically, we try to reproduce very complicated flows for, I don't know, anything you can envision that has flows. We specifically look at aerodynamics and complicated aerodynamics using these computational fluid dynamics methods. So the big idea about this is we could reproduce something with a higher level of confidence than with testing. If we want to understand the safety of an airplane, you definitely need to test it and test its underlying aerodynamics to develop confidence in it. So we're using computers and very detailed models of aircraft, for example, to develop more confidence in it, in the success, in its airworthiness, for example, or its performance, just on a computer. So in the end, it saves time, money, and these sorts of things. And we're working on this on what's called the Dragonfly mission. It's the first lander that is flying completely. So obviously Mars Ingenuity is a flying aircraft on Mars, but it had a base lander that's still a rover. This one's completely flying. So that's kind of the unique aspect of it. The goal of the mission is to understand Saturn's moon Titan and specifically understand how this body behaves. But a large part, we're trying to find if there's, primitive forms of life as well. So that's really the overall goal of it. You can think of this thing as a flying experimental box. This is kind of like what I think of it as. It's a mobile lab, right? It has all these little devices to measure all kinds of aspects of Titan. And our goal is to focus specifically on the aerodynamics, understand how we can extend the range, make sure flight handling is well behaved in this kind of a unique environment. This is where the computational fluid dynamics becomes more important, because it's very tough to test these conditions with our Earth-based facilities, because it has different gases with different densities, different gravities, these sorts of things. So it does truly provide a scenario where we're using these computational methods has very high value. So again, our role is to understand the aerodynamics, improve its flight range, and basically understand how this thing's going to behave when it flies on Titan. To be honest with you, that is one of the fun things about my job, is I don't have to focus on one specific topic all the time. If you ask me which one's my favorite, it's probably the one that I haven't been involved in for a while. I do like jumping between different concepts, and I think one, it can be a weakness, because if you aren't really focused on a problem, you miss some of the details that are very important. But the other part is, if you're mixing in between different areas, you could find technologies in one area and apply them into another area. A lot of technologies become focused on very specific areas, and they don't look outside the box. On teaching days, I'm pretty much focused throughout the morning until I teach. I'm preparing my lecture, making sure I have everything in mind for the students. And then once I get done with the teaching, I answer a whole bunch of emails, and then I start trying to work with students on helping them out with research and stuff. Non-teaching days, I try to organize meetings for my grad students, or the grad students in our group. Try to work on getting students to present their data, present it properly. I also give them feedback on what they need to do, like technical feedback, and come up with plans on what to do in the next week or until the next time we meet. And then lots of email. I think that's all our jobs have lots of email these days. So fighting with that is also a good part of my job anymore. One of the things that maybe was a good surprise was how engaged students are. So again, I teach, and we have on the larger size of classes here at University of Central Florida. So it brings together a lot of different opinions. And I think the surprise was how engaged students are, even more so today than when I was a student. I think a lot of the technology associated with information has opened up students' minds into high-level stuff that I would have never thought of as a student. That was probably one of the bigger surprises, and at least the bigger, happier surprises I had, and I really enjoy that. YouTube is great. I mean, you could always Google something on how computational fluid dynamics works, and you get pretty good resources there. The other thing is things change so quickly. I would dig into probably how the Artemis mission that NASA's kind of doing is kind of evolving. There's a lot of interesting stuff on what it's aiming to do that I think is well beyond, this SLS rocket, and that I think I would dig into, because it really leads a path to how a lot of essentially space or aerospace driven careers might be in the next 20, 30 years. So in the fields of computational fluid dynamics, one of the underlying issues that we have is we rely on kind of like the behavior of really high frequency flows. We model that so that we don't have to spend a lot of time on computers. In the future, as things like quantum computing are coming out, we might be able to directly simulate that in very fast time periods. And these computational based models may be more integrated into the design than ever before, and have a lot more reliability. So that's one of the exciting things on computational fluid dynamics. In terms of things like space, seeing how things evolve in the whole idea of colonizing the moon. Are we able to create things there and bring them back to Earth? That is another front that's, to me, very exciting. And it might be game changing to how we do things here.